Thank you for joining us. Today's guest is Shternie Wuensch. I am excited to see her because she's a marriage family therapist who is passionate about psychology, bridging psychology and spirituality. Shternie, thank you for being here.
You're so welcome, Melanie. It's so good to be with you.
I'd like to start with 67 seconds rapid fire question. Yes, quick answers. Night owl or early bird?
Early bird.
What color would you paint a portrait of yourself?
Black and white.
Any person, alive or not, would you like to have coffee with?
My father.
What will people be surprised to learn about you?
That I'm a true introvert.
One thing you can't live without?
My face creams.
Favorite scent?
Le Labo, but I won't tell you which one.
What does Paris mean to you?
It means everything.
What would you take on deserted island?
SP.
Biggest strength?
My capacity to enter into somebody else's world.
Pet peeve?
Impatience.
Guilty pleasure?
Sweets.
Where were you happiest?
In the present moment.
Describe yourself in 3 words.
Inner, kind, intuitive.
That was the end of our quick round, and now we can, have to go to a question where you can answer as long as short as you would like. You grew up in Ottawa. What is a favorite memory?
A favorite memory I have of growing up in Ottawa is the first snowfall every winter. We lived on a dead-end street. It was a cul-de-sac. And so we used to always play in the street and be in the street. And that first snow, I don't remember it being really cold yet, but it was like these big fat snowflakes falling, and you would see them kind of dancing under the street lights, and it would just cover the entire street, all the driveways and the lawns, like the first really heavy snowfall. And it was always like so exciting, and everything was bright, even though it was night, because of the reflection of the lights on the white. And it was just hopeful and fun and adventurous. We'd all be outside just kind of marveling in the winter wonderland.
I miss that, being in California.
Yeah, exactly. Florida too. No snow here.
What does your childhood smell like? What's a favorite smell of childhood?
Yeah. I think of coming home from school. And we had long school days because we went to like a French immersion Jewish day school. So it was like French and English and Hebrew and Jewish studies. So we'd get home probably after 5, and me and my siblings, like a car full of kids, and my father would bring us home, and we'd walk into the house, and we'd always smell my mom's dinner. Dinner was ready. And it was just like a really good, warm feeling of just like, dinner time. What's for dinner? So I would say that, my mom's dinner.
Did you learn French? And you from the early age, from the first grade?
Yeah. We learned French. Yeah. Ottawa, the town that I'm from, wasn't French yet. Now I think it's more bilingual. It's become more bilingual over the years. But my father started a Jewish day school, and he needed it to have some pull in the community of like why this new day school is needed. And so he came up with the idea of a French immersion Jewish day school. So yeah, we grew up speaking French. I remember one year we even learned Chumash, like Jewish studies, in French. We had a teacher who spoke French, and we learned Hebrew translated to French. Yeah.
Father was a visionary.
Definitely.
Is that the only? I never heard of. Is there the only one in at least French. North America, or there are more immersion schools?
I think Montreal schools teach French. I'm not sure if it's French immersion, but I don't know of another one, because our school, like, we learned math in French, history was in French. So all of our secular subjects were in French, except for English. It was in English. Yeah.
What was your dream growing up?
To have a big family.
As a teen, I know you traveled to Ukraine in the early 90s to help rebuild the Jewish communities. What was the most memorable part of that experience?
Yeah, at 17, I went with 3 other girls who I didn't really know well. We went to Kiev, Ukraine on like a program to teach Jewish children about Judaism and Torah. and Jewish life. And it's interesting because it was definitely life-changing, an amazing experience, but was also a very hard experience. It was exciting to adventure, but when we got there, we didn't have so many resources. Like there wasn't a curriculum to teach or a program or support for what we were meant to do. We kind of like, and this is in 1992, we were kind of just brought there. We were given an apartment, a driver. I remember he'd bring us chleb, bread every day, fresh bread, and he'd bring us maybe a cabbage and an onion, maybe some eggs, a case of those individual glass bottles of Coke, and then drive us to our schools that we taught in, and then drive us home. And aside from that, we kind of had to figure everything else out on our own. And we didn't speak Ukrainian or Russian, and our students didn't speak English. We had no teaching materials. So in the beginning, it was really, really hard. Like, how are we supposed to do this thing? We can't even speak to the children. My job was teaching grades 5 through 10 Jewish studies. And a friend of mine was teaching, well, she became a friend, 5 through 10 Hebrew. And then another girl taught the kindergarten and another girl taught in the college. But I was supposed to teach Jewish studies to grades 5 through 10 with no teaching materials and no shared language. And so that was hard. I remember the feeling of feeling like I can't do this thing I want to do. But somehow it also became the most beautiful, magical experience. We got somehow figured out a way. We got to know the kids. I was making up lessons on the blackboard with chalk. I don't even know how. And what was most magical is the relationships we formed with these kids. Kids started picking Jewish names, and boys, teenage boys, were deciding on their own that they want to be circumcised. Kids were walking really far to come to the shul on Shabbos. We were celebrating holidays together. I remember we were there Hanukkah. We were there when they gave back the puppet theater back to the Jewish community to serve as the synagogue again, because it originally was a synagogue. And then we just got really close to these kids. Like it was just all about the relationships. And I remember before I left, I feel like I lost my connection to things, like material things, clothes, even brand names. At the time, the brand name was The Gap, right? Like even that, like nothing mattered. Only people mattered, love and connection mattered, meaning mattered, caring for another person mattered. So it just kind of stripped away everything that wasn't real. And to have that experience at 17, 18 for me was definitely life-changing, because it gave me a sense of what I want to do with my life, impact people.
But did you break the language barrier?
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. We learned a little bit of Russian, and
sign language.
Eventually there was a girl who spoke French, actually, and I used her a little bit as an interpreter, but it was tough. The kids started learning Hebrew and English. We started learning Russian and Ukrainian. Yeah, it was wild. It was amazing, because magic did happen, but it was also terrifying. That's the crazy part. It wasn't like we went and it was just so beautiful. It was also terrifying. I remember calling home crying that I don't have teaching materials. Could someone find some books and send me books? And back then, sending things to the Ukraine was not simple. The few packages I did get were opened and items were removed from them too. So, yeah.
Incredibly, you were on set of what now is a thriving communities. Dnipro, Kiev, Odessa.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You built a thriving Jewish community in the Bay Area from nothing. Was there a plan, master plan, development plan, or a complete trust in the process?
I think because I grew up on shlichus, like in a community where my parents were rabbi and rebbitzin, I had a little bit of a sense of what I was going there to do, even though every situation's a little different. Like my parents moved to Ottawa in the 70s. My father got a job as a rabbi in the Young Israel of Ottawa, and then he started Chabad in the city of Ottawa. So I grew up kind of understanding that you move to a place and you make that place a center for Jewish people to come and learn and grow and celebrate together. But as much as I did know about what that life is like, it was also very different. And I think it took me some time to find out the ways I was going to be in that position or lead. And I did find my own way to participate women's programming and Shabbos hosting and having the shul, the synagogue was actually in our home for the first few years. A summer camp, and then the relationships you build with people end up being the most important thing at the end of the day. That's really what matters the most, like connecting to another person, and those relationships are really what make the work impactful, meaningful, and kind of alive, I think, for me, and I would imagine others.
Was becoming a therapist and earning 2 degrees a natural step for after counseling so many in the community for 14 plus years?
I could see why someone would think so, but for me, it was actually an unnatural step. My at 21, I moved to the Bay Area, and that first decade was very much about. I was going through a lot that I wasn't really sharing with people. Like I was going through a lot of infertility and pregnancy loss those years, and I think it took that decade of experiencing a lot of pain around pregnancy loss specifically that made me realize there's something else I want to focus on too, aside from just trying and trying to have a family and it wasn't happening. And so I think decided to go back to school to become a therapist so I can help people in their own pain and suffering. Um, Things were more private then. I think now people speak about things that they go through. But back then, there was this whole part of my life I didn't really talk about with my community or my family even so much. And going to school ended up being very healing for me personally. Um, and then really taught me about how to help other people go through their own personal struggles. So yeah, that's kind of what brought me to becoming a therapist.
You have an incredible blend of spiritual wisdom and now education and training. How does it benefit your clients, this blend?
Hmm. So every person is really a makeup of so much of, their psychology, the way they were raised, the family they come from, their nature, their body, their emotions, their experiences. And I think their spirituality is one of the ways each person is unique too. And it's a way that um, we can engage in life and try to understand things or feel supported in things, especially when things are challenging and tough. And so I'm always curious about a client's spiritual truth, and I do support them in the way it's true for them. There's what we see, right? And then there's all the truths we don't see. And that's really what spirituality is. It's more the truths we feel and don't really see. And so it is a big part of how someone um, can find ways to feel a little bit more support when they're going through challenging times.
So you're able to take the masks that we all wear at one time or the other. People take off the mask and present real you in your sessions, right?
I try to invite each person to kind of share who they really are, and I find it really such an honor to get to see people in that way when they let me see who they really are. And I always like to encourage the person to be more of that truth, of their personal truth, and to follow what's true for them.
What is the main reason couples come to you?
Yeah. Couples don't usually come to session because they don't love each other. They usually come for couples counseling because they are struggling with being able to reconnect or find each other, be there for each other when they get stuck in negative patterns and cycles in their relationship. Couples want to be understood and known by their partner, loved, chosen, and there's things that can get away in the way of that. As a therapist, I know that, and just being married, I know that. Like, life is complicated. We all have triggers. We all have histories. We have our inner emotional experience, and something can make us feel disconnected from our partner, and there's a longing for connection that we don't always know how to get to or think is possible. And so my hope is to help couples learn new ways of finding each other again after they are familiar with their patterns of disconnection or struggle.
Do you think both partners need to have trust in the process of for healing when they come through the door to see you?
Yeah. I think one of the ways to trust the process is to experience the process as healing. So my hope is to help give them an experience that feels safe so that they can feel that this is something that is helpful to them. And when I say this, I mean learning about our emotional truth, being able to share our emotional truth, being able to process hard things, share what's really going on. And when we have the experience of that feeling healing, then we can trust the process. So I don't see it as a prerequisite. I almost feel like it's my responsibility to create a healing space once they come through the door, if I can.
I think for couples, they need separate, or you invite couples together, or people need a separate time to being this emotional, to reach for this emotional truth.
Yeah. When couples come together to work on their relationship, like, that's their presenting issue, that they want support in making their relationship better and learning how to communicate and learning how to get through rough patches or the conflicts that keep coming up. I like working with them together, because when one partner is able to access something and share it, the other partner gets to then see it and witness it and understand their partner more. So there's something that happens within a person, but there's also something that happens between the couple. I do work with individuals and I work with couples. So when I work with individuals, we're doing a lot of within work within the person. And when I work with couples, we're doing a lot of between work. So it's within each, but the point is to help bridge the relational divide, to kind of strengthen their dance, their pattern.
What's the first question you ask your client?
I ask them what brings them to therapy at this time. It's usually what I want to know.
What is the second question you would ask?
Have they ever been to therapy before, and what happened there? I want to understand a little bit of the history. I like to know what their hope is, what their fears are. And then I kind of follow, I also follow what they're bringing in. So there is a little bit of a kind of staying open to see what is emerging, right? Like, if someone's coming in with a crisis, we go to the crisis. If someone's coming in telling me they're feeling numb and they don't really feel much in their life, we start right there.
Well, do you have cases with some couples, and you start with a couple, or you work with a husband or you work with a wife, and they send their partner in, and they're like, oh, my husband sent me here, and I don't know why. It's not my issues, it's his issue, or vice versa. My wife sent me here, and I don't know why. When the person who comes in doesn't necessarily have the trust and belief in the process of working with somebody to reach that healing.
So if they're actually coming in, then there's a part of them that is saying, I'm maybe willing to trust something here. So if they do come in, then there's something to work with. If they don't come in, right, if just one partner comes in, then I obviously can't work with the person who is not in the room. But I assume if they're in the room, even telling me they don't know why they're here, they're still there. And so I'll use that opportunity to really want to understand them and to help them feel like it can, to help them feel that there is a purpose, and there is, there's something very specific we do want to do in this work.
Do you think healing is a journey, or is there a destination?
Yeah, healing to me is very much about freedom to be who you are, to know your truth, to have a capacity to navigate hard things, to handle your life, to be able to, at times do deep work, and at times, like, let things be. There's seasons for things. So sometimes it's a season for rest or fun or play or just to live. And sometimes it's a season to kind of look inward and bring attention to some places that maybe have been longing for tending to.
Do I hear you right, that everybody have their own season?
Yeah, there's seasons for things. Like, even me personally, I've had seasons that I did very deep work, and I have seasons where it feels like, I'd rather read a novel and just go lie out in the sun and keep, just like live life. It's not always, it's okay to kind of say something here is complete, and we don't need to always be digging for the next thing. Yes, I would say there are seasons. There's seasons for excavation, and there's seasons for just permission to be in your life and to enjoy your life.
Interesting. It's a very deep thought. Well, let it seep through for a moment. See, I didn't think about that way.
What does it touch for you when I like that idea of seasons?
Season, like a holiday season. Yeah, you work on yourself for a day or two, for a week. Like, I don't know, going to the gym, New Year's resolution. Go to the gym. You go first, second, third, fourth, and then January 5th. I really want this baguette with butter, and that's all I want. And I don't want any of the iron smell and sweat smell in the gym.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So I would be drawn to what enjoying that baguette would be like for that person, giving themselves that permission. And what about the gym called them in the first place? Like, there's so much there we could unpack, even in that example.
I'll sign up for a special session, I think. Well, that's in the end, it seems like in the end of the process or during the journey, it's in uncovering the truth. And I find that truth is scary, finding the truth. Not always, not just scary, but unpleasant, uncomfortable. Why is that so? Is that so for everybody? Is that talk about wearing masks?
Right.
Taking the mask, we're our true selves. We don't know if people will like us. We don't want to, if we show the people that. Why do you think finding the truth is so scary?
I wonder if it's because we don't know if we could bear the truth, like what knowing the truth will then ask of us. And so I don't know if it's so much about the truth itself being scary, but what we do then with the truth that can be scary, like thinking I can't handle the truth, or they won't be able to handle my truth. And so, giving someone permission to be true and to trust what's true is a lot of the work that happens. Yeah, I would say in individual therapy, and that there's something so beautiful about truth, even if it's hard for the other person. There's something that's safe about truth when we can be true with each other.
Do you think finding the truth and opening to the truth is kind of accepting what is always existed? Is that fair to say? It's acceptance in a way, yourself, where you.
Yeah, accepting what's happening. Yeah. It's making me think about emotions also. Like, sometimes there's a hard emotion. Let's say somebody's really sad or grieving, and it's so hard to feel the grief. And so it's so overwhelming. And so they kind of like push it away. But like being able to go toward it, if it's true, right? Like feeling the grief, riding the grief, crying, feeling that pain, staying connected to yourself as you navigate it, and then And then you're on the other side of that, let's say, wave, right? So it's like something hard could be like the buildup of it. It's hard, like a wave building up, it crests and then it falls. And then it's something's complete in that wave. And so life, emotion, truth, like in that moment, something happened that was true. By being with it, we're honoring what's true, we're accepting what's here, and then we're on the other side of it. And we can do that. Like, that's the amazing thing. Like, we have that capacity to feel hard things, to be with hard things, to navigate hard things. How many times in our life do we feel like, I can't believe this is happening? I can't believe that just happened. And what do you know? Days later, a month later, a year later, that did happen, and we're still okay. We're still here. It doesn't mean there isn't hardship in that process. There is. That's the human experience. But learning that we can handle life and be with life. And there's something about being with life and being with what's true that's very honest living and accepting what's true. I remember when I read The Power of Now, one of my favorite books, there was just a line Eckhart Tolle wrote, accept what's happening as if you have chosen it. And then I'll like there's freedom in that, right? Like, to accept what's happening as if you had chosen it, right? So I'm late, I missed my appointment, I hurt that person's feelings by saying that comment, that person hurt my feelings, whatever it is, like accepting it. Because really, at the end of the day, whatever's happening, like Hashem, God, chose it for us, right? Like, it's not a mistake, it's not random, it's purposeful. It's part of the big grand story, the big grand unfolding of our own life and of the truth of the universe in some level. And so it kind of like releases a certain anxiety if we can have permission to practice that. And it's, I wouldn't tell someone else to practice it. I would just tell myself to practice it, because to tell someone else to practice it is very assumptive, right? Like telling someone else to practice accepting their hardship. But for my own self, I found that accepting my hardship has helped me navigate it in a different way, where I can still like find myself through it and be myself through it and be okay through it.
I've heard the term you use, spiritual bypassing, and I have no clue what it is. Is it something what we talked about, or maybe you can explain what it is?
Yeah, I think Jack Cornfield came up with that term. He's a spiritual teacher, and spiritual bypassing is when people use spirituality as a way to avoid feeling what they're feeling or being with reality. And that's using spirituality to bypass the human experience, to bypass their emotional experience. As a spiritual person, I think there's a way we probably all do it. If you're spiritual, you're going to use spirituality to bypass, to help you through difficulty. So I guess what's the key difference of using spirituality, let's say, as a resource to help you versus to bypass? Spirituality is meant to help us through difficult times. I think when we use spirituality to avoid being with reality or avoid being with difficult things, then that would be considered bypassing. And sometimes it's probably necessary. But my hope is to help people have access to spirituality as a resource, and also have access to human emotional experiences, and be able to feel their pain, name their pain, be supported in their pain. Because when we're hurting, it feels really good to be met by another person. And I wouldn't want someone to be dismissed saying like everything happens for the best or something like that, right? Yeah, everything happens purposefully, but if someone's in pain, I want to be with them in pain and cry with them more than tell them it's going to be good, or on some level it's good.
Do you often come to the spiritual bypassing with clients when they kind of shut it off and I don't want to go into?
Less so. I find that this generation kind of will go toward their emotional experience more. And I think the previous generations maybe did a little bit more bypassing because they were coming off of having to rebuild kind of post-Holocaust. They had a different job, a different task. I don't know that, my grandfather, let's say, having escaped Poland and finally ending up in Montreal and getting married and rebuilding a family after losing his siblings and parents in the, concentration camps. I don't know that he would have was meant to sit and feel his feelings, right? Like his bypassing on some level is what allows for me to be here, for the future generations to even exist, right? Because if they, coming out of the Holocaust, would be feeling their feelings, we don't know that we'd even have the continuity that we're a part of today. So I think there's almost like a task of each generation. Jonathan Sachs speaks about it a little bit, our ancestors who survived those times, they didn't even talk about it. Their task was to rebuild first. After they rebuild, then when they're in their 80s, all of a sudden they're starting to talk about it. So I think we live in a time where we have the luxury to be able to feel our emotional experience. And we also have a luxury to access spirituality in a way that previous generations maybe couldn't access it. Now, it's so easy to kind of find deep spiritual thought written in English, just put it's all over the place. So yeah. Are we living up to the privileged times that we are in? And if so,
that's a great question.
Yeah.
Are we tapping into that? That's available.
Yeah. And then can we keep bringing healing to the world, right? Because us being here now is also purposeful. So when spiritual bypassing happens, it's usually because there's something really hard to feel. And so I wouldn't fight that. I trust that and know that there's something there that's probably overwhelming for the person. And so it's part of the process, I think.
Professionals deem Freud theory to be antiquated, to say the least. What's your opinion? Is it still valid? Is still used by professionals in your field?
I personally love Freud. A couple of years ago, I was in Vienna and I went to his apartment and office. It's like one building, half was his home and half was his office. And just, I find his work fascinating. So I consider him one of the fathers of modern psychology. Everything we have is built on the foundations he set. Obviously some of his theories are outdated in terms of the drives, what he thought the drives are versus other drives that humanity has. But, he really brought to light the unconscious, the subconscious, defenses, transference, like what happens between a person and a mentor, and that our personal histories do live in our unconscious and will play out in our life, our early histories. So, for me, everything is built on the foundations that he said. I kind of think of him as like the father of modern psychology.
We've heard everything throughout your career, I'm sure. Were there cases where you were surprised by something?
My initial instinct is no, but I'm not surprised because I think I expect each person to be a mystery to me until I get to know them and when they share their life with me. But there are things people have been through that are extremely painful and traumatic that do surprise. I don't know if I would say surprise, but that are so painful to them and to me when I hear about them. And so the human spirit, what humans go through. But I'm also not surprised by that people do really experience, a lot of deep emotional, physical, psychological pain.
How often do you see magic in the session where you break through?
Yeah. I love to see magic in the session, and it happens. I love seeing it with couples when there's a moment where you see them get each other or reach each other or impact each other. And it's so beautiful, and I'm not embarrassed to even cry with them when I see those moments. It just makes it all so worth it. Yeah, it's really
Is it
special.
is it totally impossible to work with the friends or family members? Why is that? If you have you're a
Yeah.
professional, you have a sound advice, and you see from the side, and
Mhm.
is it just hard to be not totally involved and be just detached a bit? Why is that you can?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think one of the things that makes therapy so safe and effective is the frame. And the frame is that we have a time we meet, we have a place we meet, we have a purpose why we're meeting. And when you come here in this time and place and for this purpose, there's work we're doing and we're all focused on that. And that's what our relationship is. Like, I'm here to do that with you at this time, right? There's even money exchanged for it. Like, that's all the frame of therapy. And it's not a small detail. It what makes therapy so safe, where a client can come in the door and all of a sudden take off their masks. They can take off their masks because of the frame. And I find with family, and trust me, there's plenty of opportunities where I'm involved with family, but it's a different kind of helping. You don't have the same frame, right? Because I'm either the sister or a different role. And so I'm not just the therapist that's here for this and holding this with them while they're here, and also trusting them between this session and next session that they're going to be okay practicing this on their own. So there's something about the frame of therapy that makes the boundaries of therapy make it very clear and very safe to do very deep work. Safe for clients and safe for the therapist too, I think. But there's no way out of being a helper, like me being a helper in my life with the people I love. Like, there's no way out of that too. But it's just a little bit different as a therapist versus a family member. And a friend, I would say also, like, you can it's tricky. It's tricky. It's not, there's ways to work with it, but it's definitely tricky. If people know me and ask to work with me, we have this conversation of, like, you know, about what the frame is in therapy, and uh, it's something I'm pretty explicit and open about.
Boundaries. Are there instances where you felt that clients were better off leading separate lives?
Very rarely. You're talking about a couple?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very rarely, but sometimes yes. And it could be also the kinds of clients I work with. So I wouldn't say across the board that's my answer, that it's very rare, it's rarely the case. But in terms of the population, the clients I work with, rarely do we go in that direction.
With half of marriages today ending in divorce, unfortunately, what advice, as a professional, would you give to young couples before they marry, drawing from your experience in sessions and working with multiple couples?
The first thing I would say is to have a realistic idea of what relationships and marriage is. Marriage is beautiful, and you're finding your person, and hopefully there's an element of falling in love and feeling all that and all those good hormones. But it's also going to be hard, and there's going to be work, and it's going to ask a lot of both people. And so just the reality of what relationships are would be the first point. The second point, leading up after that point, is um, marriage is going to ask of you things that you wouldn't necessarily have to do on your own. Inner work. It's going to ask you to look at parts of yourself, to strengthen parts of yourself, to become more clear around certain things, to learn how to maybe take up space, or how to be generous with another person, or how to, right, for everyone, there's such a range of things it could ask. But what is this marriage asking of me to work on within myself here is a good question to have, because it's also about growth and deepening and maturing together. And And the third thing, which is as important, I think, as the first two, is I would tell them to have fun, to laugh, to play, to travel, to be silly, to forgive when they can, to kind of give each other permission to be human. And it's, it's a big part of life to get to journey with another person and to enjoy it.
Why is vulnerability so hard for many people?
Not a lot of people have experience of vulnerability being held safely and being kind of or being safe or useful. And so if somebody doesn't have the experience of that being beneficial or important in any way, I could see why they would not naturally go there, be interested in going there. Some of what we do in therapy is learn how to assemble elements of emotion so that there's room to be in touch with one's own vulnerability and to show up in relationship with vulnerability. Because when we do that, we usually invite the other person toward their vulnerability too. And that's really, I think, where the relational magic happens. So, I would say some of the work a therapist does is to help vulnerability feel safe and to give people permission to be vulnerable and to be kind to someone in their vulnerability so that it's a healing experience.
Do you ever get tired of listening?
I feel like what I do is more about like entering into people's worlds than just listening. If I'm just listening, I would get tired of that, but it's more like I'm being invited into a client's world, a couple's world, and that to me, that to me is really an important value, to be able to meet someone in a place where they're inviting me in that kind of personal space. So I don't get tired of that.
Have you thought of writing a book where you truly bridge spirituality and experience that you have in sessions? I feel
Yeah,
that'll be a powerful, very powerful book for you.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I have one in the works, and it's kind of been in the works in my mind for a long time. I have one that I've been working on, but I wonder like when that will become like um the time. I'm almost like it's here. It's here. It's started, but I'm also like waiting for like, okay, now's the time for this. So my
Is
answer to that is yes. I
there
think
any way I can facilitate that, or maybe have another
oh
conversation about the book
maybe you
or help
already
you with
have
the book?
this conversation. Yeah. Um, I do feel like I do have a book in me, a book about, my experiences personally, my experiences as a therapist, and really bridging psychology and spirituality in a very practical, life affirming way. You know how to navigate the hard parts of life and to come out hopeful on the other side, even if the answer was no to the thing we wanted most.
I would love to be any part of, not writing certainly, but reading, promoting, anything you need to get it to reality, to a published hardcover.
Thank you, Melanie. I always feel
Well,
like
I truly, I
you're rooting for me, and I always feel like you're rooting for me, like
am, and I
in all
for good
our.
reason.
Thank you. It's so kind and sweet of you.
What brings you the biggest joy in life?
The people I love, family, definitely. Yeah. Also beauty, I would say too. I love beautiful things. That's probably why I love Paris and why, my spaces, for me, like beauty in my spaces is so nurturing and like very harmonious. So, yeah, loving my people and beautiful spaces, I would say.
What is your current state of mind?
I'm hopeful
When do you feel alive?
when I'm present, really present.
Who or what makes you laugh?
My husband makes me laugh, and life makes me laugh, and all the cute kids in my life make me laugh too.
The last question I ask all my guests: what do you find extraordinary in every day?
Being alive, being alive is extraordinary, and loving is extraordinary, that we have a capacity to love people and care about people. So,
Shternie, thank you for this wonderful conversation. It was just pure
oh.
delight for me.
Thank you, Melanie. It's always amazing to be with you. Thank you so much.